All right. Ron Goodall, FightHype.com. I'm here with Giovanni Marquez, who makes his ring return September 20th against Wesley Farrell out in Houston at the Bayou Music Center. First and foremost, man, how excited to be back?
Man, I'm really excited, especially to be back in my hometown. It's always a treat to fight in my hometown. So, been training hard, of course, and ready just to get back in there.
Yeah, you just recently fought a couple months ago, so I know that you're super excited just to immediately not have to play the politics game or wait for an opponent. Like you're immediately right back in there. So, I mean, what can you say that allowed you to transition from that fight to this fight so quickly?
I would say just having a good performance, staying healthy, and just being signed with my promotion over time. They're keeping me active, so I would say that that has a lot to do with it.
Hmm. You know, your opponent, Wesley Farrell, I mean, he's coming in with a good record of 17 wins and only two losses. What do you think about him?
I think he's definitely a game opponent. He has a good record, like you said, only two losses. So I know he's definitely hungry. He's definitely coming, but we're gonna handle business.
Oh, did I lose you a little bit? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So I know that at this point in your career, right, you're only 24, but eventually your goal is to fight one of these world champions. And do you see yourself fighting one of the world champions in the 140 division, or do you see yourself moving up at some point?
Right now, I'm comfortable at the 140 division, so I'm definitely going to be here in the 140 division for some time. So I think, for my first world title, it'll definitely be at 140.
Is there a particular champion or a style that excites you a little bit more? I know they're all great matchups. I know there's a lot of notoriety that comes with all of them, but do you see one that's kind of sticks out a little bit more, or a particular belt that you fancy more?
I wouldn't say there's an opponent specifically, but whatever opportunity comes up, that's the one we'll be going for.
Hmm. You know, I think a lot of times, you know, when it comes to like a fighter who I guess comes underneath like a father who boxed and had a good career. You know, there's a lot of drawn comparison
Yeah.
between the two. So, um, with obviously your father, who's been in the ring with a lot of great opponents and had a great amateur background, what would you say that you're similar but also different? Because I know that's what everyone's going to always look at as like a contrast.
Yeah. I would say we have two different styles. I'm more of a boxer puncher, but some similarities that we have is we both work very hard, and I'll say our will to win. And
Hmm.
at times I can fight like my father with that aggressive minded style, and then of course I would say the differences are my athleticism. At times I can box, whereas my dad, he would just come forward kind of guy, just straight down the line. But I can do that too at the same time, so a little bit of
Hmm.
both.
Where do you think the identity difference comes from? Is it something that he advised, like, you know, these are things I wish I had? Was there certain fighters that you watched that you grew up that you built your own identity? I guess how would you describe how you got there?
I would say probably maybe growing up had some influence. I grew up watching Floyd a lot, so and I think also just my natural athleticism gave me like the skills and ability to box and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
my dad, while he was a pressure come forward fighter, he is in favor of the boxing and mixing it up at the same time.
yeah. So would you say that he's happy that you fight the way that you do, that have the two different versatilities?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. You know, kind of get into your bag a little bit of your amateur background, things like that. How would you describe like your amateur accolades and your upcoming?
It was good. I got a lot of great experience. I finished my amateur career at with a record of 75 wins, 12 losses, and culminating with the win of the National Golden Gloves. And I was also named the outstanding fighter of the tournament. And after that, we turned pro. So I definitely had a good amateur career. Got a lot of great experience.
What made you want to just go pro instead of do the Olympics? I mean, I know it's a cliche question, but just always have to ask with a good record and accolades like
Yeah,
that.
for sure. I would say the politics of amateur boxing was one of the reasons, and after winning the national Golden Gloves, we had a lot of momentum, and managers started reaching out, and we just felt it was the best move. Also because I had more of a pro-like style. So
Hmm. Awesome. We spoke a little bit off camera, but I remember the first time I've seen you or let alone met you was it was a training camp. You were sparring Shakur and it was good work, amongst things. Um, just wanted to just ask, like, how did you, I guess, link up with like Shakur or let alone even Devin? Because I know that those are two guys that are at the top of the game around your division, and just simply the fact that um, you're still not on that stage with the names, but in the boxing world, you're respected because you're obviously working with top guys like that.
most definitely. Yeah, Shakur, so he actually trains out here in my hometown, Houston. So that's how I got to know him. And, we sparred a couple times and, he always liked the work I gave him. So, that's how we became friends. And he's invited me to a couple of his camps to go train with him and, spar with him. And I give these top level of work. It's not just, I don't just hold my own. It's competitive. Sometimes things get a little heated, but at the highest level, that's what they want, to push.
Absolutely. He's thinking about stepping in your division and maybe face like Teofimo Lopez. Skill for skill. I mean, do you feel like that fight warrants a 50-50 fight, or do you edge one a little bit more?
Uh, man, I don't. That's a good fight. I would say on paper it would probably be a 50-50 fight. I've never got the chance to spar with Teofimo, but I have got the chance to spar with Shakur, and I will say he's definitely sharp. His defense is pretty sharp too. So I think it's on paper a 50-50 fight.
I know Tio is like a very explosive, athletic fighter. They would describe him like very twitchy.
Yeah.
1 minute he's here and then 1 minute he bounces across. Would Shakur's defense have to be at another level to, I guess, prevent kind of getting pot shot from a guy like that, or does his style actually possess a bigger problem for Tio that Tio would have to probably fight different?
Uh, and honestly, I don't know. I think whoever executes their game plan better. I don't.
Hmm.
I don't know how Teal would approach that fight if he would try to box or just be an aggressor. Shakur's gonna do what he does, and that's box and be smart. So
Hmm.
man, I don't know. I mean, of course, Shakur would have to always be sharp on his defense, knowing that Teals can pop in here, with the leaping left hook or something like that. But at the same time, Teal would have to be cautious, lunging in and jumping in like that too, because he could get caught coming in. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, my last prediction, I know because that you had good work with Devin, and Devin's deciding to go to 147 and fight like a Brian Norman, which
yeah,
many people feel is a dangerous puncher, considering that they felt obviously the controversy of the Ryan Garcia stuff, but felt that still a left hook was giving him problems. Now he's facing
yeah,
another puncher at a bigger weight. So skillfully, can Devin get out of those type of shots from maybe a bigger puncher than Brian Norman? And does his experience play a big factor into this?
yeah. I would say his experience at the highest level gives him a little bit of an advantage being on the big stage. I would say this is probably Brian Norman's first time being on a stage of this magnitude. But a lot of respect to Devin for moving up and taking a fight like that. Norman's a heavy hitter. And Devin definitely has to be on his P's and Q's. He has to be extremely sharp with his defense and to not get hit with those big shots.
Is that like another 50-50 in your mind? Because I know that even though that you haven't hit the big, big stage yet, you've had the big, big experience. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I would say 50-50. Yeah.
yeah. So you're just these fights are just kind of torn in right in the middle, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing that sways out a little bit more. It's good.
yeah.
Awesome. Would you say if you look into the next couple of years, do you feel like there's an opponent for you that it's not at the names like Tio or Shakur because they've kind of been marinating amongst each other, but is there someone or some fights that might be marinating that we don't know that maybe potentially you can see yourself across the ring and facing? Is there like like an amateur rivalry or someone that you feel like that's my Crawford Spence, that's my Mayweather
Yeah.
Pacquiao?
I would say Kurt Scooby, we've been going back and forth on social media, and there's been some hype, and build up, and I think that's a fight that will happen in the near
Yeah.
future for sure. Yeah.
What do you think about his bounce back? Because I know he suffered a loss and then he's kind of obviously came back and he's showing, a lot more visibility. I think he had like a sparring session at that Turkey event. So I mean, he's definitely, I know, trying to get back to that top spot. But do you think that if he came to face you anytime soon, that would be a big mistake?
For sure. I think it would be a mistake. But he's bounced back well, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. So
Would you want OTX to make that fight happen this year, if possible, as soon as possible? Or would you feel like you would need him to get a little bit more time and to get acclimated? Or you just feel like his trash talking warrants him to fight right away?
man, I don't know, but we got to definitely settle that beef, whether it's this year or next.
Awesome. Well, I do know you have a fight coming up September 20th against Wesley Farrell. Like you said, and back in Houston. I know you're super excited. For the fight fans that's tuned in, that's watching this right now, what do you want to tell them? Where can they follow on social media?
Yeah, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Giovanni.Marquez. Make sure to tune into my fight September 20th, live on the zone, live on Overtime Boxing. And if you're in the Houston area, make sure you guys pull up to the Bay Music Center in downtown Houston.